Yeah. Oh, you got auto muted or something. Well, I guess this is why we leave sound to the professionals. No, I'm just kidding. Isaac, hopefully you can come back to us. Uh, yes. So first, yeah, I'd like to just go over real quick. So who are we? This is me right here. As you can see, I'm Michael Pyfer, the designer and audio director for Fray Interactive. So what I do is make sure all of the decibels are accurate and they don't hurt people. And I'm in the charge of making sure that we're trying to keep the sense of horror and tactical ability in mind whenever we build sounds, depending on gun noises, monsters, etc. So first, I guess I'd just like to go over some basic stuff that we've worked on in the last, update since our November update. So this right here, what we see in front is our door mimic teaser. And based off of that, we got some more samples here to the right that we use for in-game purposes, and just the dexterity roundhouse table that our level designers need to work with to make sure that we still achieve the horror that we're going for. Um, Longtime supporters will probably remember, especially from our Kickstarter, but day one inspiration, especially sound design wise for us, has always been the original Fear. Fear 2 is awesome too, but that visceral, guttural effect that you get from all of the guards, the anomalies, stuff that is just in play with all of the ambience. It's amazing. And I remember being, oh, I think I was 15 when Fear came out. I might be wrong on that. I'm 27 now, so I'm not sure. Um, but
The first
I
Fear game, right?
remember,
That was in
yeah, the first Fear.
2005. So you might be right.
So okay, never mind. I was 9. Um, yeah, but I played it the year it came out, and I remember that. I just have a horrible memory on my actual age. So, anyways, that's a great game if you've had the chance to play it, soundscape wise, and just all of their general sound effects. Amazing for the soundtrack that goes on and all the compositions as well, and it's plays a big part in the direction I try to lead with the sound team. And it's not just me. Obviously, we all love Fear, and our game director shares the same sentiment. And we all love to kind of, take from our inspirations and try to build it into our modern workflow. So with that in account, I'd actually like to go over these guard lines first. So this is a first for everybody, a big reveal right here.
Oh snap!
These are actually our first guard lines, our first lines that the NPCs actually have. Right now, I am happy to say that during the update on day one, the guards will have over 171 lines to choose from, depending on the situation that they're put in. Again, drawing a lot of inspiration from the anonymous kind of effect that the guards have from the Fear games. but also not trying to go full send on it and keep it grounded within the SCP universe as well. So right now, I think it would be obvious once I start playing these, but we'll go ahead and look at a couple of these lines, and I think we'll be able to tell who was our first guard. Just want to get in the right position. Here we go. Sustained critical injury. Friendly critical hits. Their accuracy is sufficient. That one's critical. I've been critically injured. I'm hit. They hit me. Sustained injury. I've been hit. Friendly.
I wonder who that could be.
Engage from a distance. 173B. Meet eyes on. 173B. Eyes front. Sapient cognito hazard engaged. Yeah, so as we can see, the guards have a lot to choose from now, and they're not going to be such smooth brains anymore, per se. Alongside a huge amount of work that our programming team has been putting in, which they're awesome at what they do. The guards, the enemies that we've all kind of known from day one, including the new enemies that we were including, have all had massive undertaking into their AI, the way they behave, and we're constantly trying to um, progress that forward to make sure that we're achieving realistic. Well, I say realistic, but we're trying to be as lore accurate as we can with some of these creatures, while also making sure it doesn't feel forced or tanky, because let's be honest, I don't think anybody would truly survive, a 3199 Chicken Man instance. They're pretty spongy in lore. Um, but so, moving on from this, and if you guys, want me to go down into the actual building of the filter, here I can just go ahead real quick and bypass everything, and we can actually see what these raw lines sound like without any filter on. Grab anomaly sighted. Engage from a distance. 173B. Meet eyes on. 173B. Eyes front. And then as I slowly engage things like the guard filter, 173B, which gives us our muffled mask vibe, our multiband, and our compressor. They complete the 940 masking effect that we're trying to go for. These guys obviously aren't speaking, with nothing on their face. They're all wearing full kitted guard gears. So going on from that, I had to also build a separate GOC filter. And this was mainly lines all used for our most current cinematic that I'm sure everybody here saw, and the team did a hell of a job at it. So the GOC are essentially a very powerful group who have mystic technology beyond human comprehension. And that being said, they have to have subtle differences in all of their vocal filters to make sure the player can easily identify the difference from a guard, GOC member, UIU, etc., from a distance, just based on the filter alone. And with that in mind, the GOC filter adds a bit more of velocity into the voice, while also keeping the mids down, as we can see here in our multiband. And through that, we achieve a pretty good uh, vocal effect that can be used for not only narrative purposes, like we saw in the cinematic, but in game through just one more multiband effect.
Refuge sauce!
Let me pull up
Unleash my dread!
one here.
Alunzungan doalim kamilax doalim mul. Kekiriran kres. Alunzungan doalim kamilax doalim mul. Kekirara kris.
What language is that?
So the GOC being the mystical beings that they are, speak Enochian, which is the language of the angels, or the language of the Bible, at least. So that is a form of the GOC, you could say. Within some of their rankings, some of the members, the higher ranking ones, will tend to speak it. I'm not sure if it's clarified that all of them will. But if we get into some of the more normalized lines, oop, actually at the front over here.
We're moving into the target zone. Still no word from the base. Be ready. We're moving into the target zone. Still no word from the base. Be ready.
So yeah, main point of this is, and I get a little carried away when I start playing audio, as we can all see. The voice effects of all of the factions will be unique to them to more easily identify them again from a distance, and to also give them some unique traits as well. We try to keep them pretty in line with the base traits of the faction itself. So yeah.
It's great to see that like each of the factions is going to get a personality. Have a few questions. People curious about the techniques you're using. One question that we've had repeated is, what SCP took the longest to design sounds for?
Well, on my plate currently, the one that's taken the longest has been the resonator. And that's just because in the early stages of it, I didn't actually have a couple of the nice VST packages and plugins that I'm working with now, like Fab Filter or Dehumanizer. Obviously, these are pretty costly, being professional sound tools, and I kind of was just working with my kit that I've had since college. So once I got more gear ahead and a better inline lore explanation of how the resonator should sound. They're pretty, viscerally clicky because they're blind, right? They scout things through echolocation and scent mainly. But so a lot of that was just trial and error, making sure that we were trying to get the good effects, making sure that we weren't also just making it sound like a predator. Like that was the first feedback that I got, that it just sounds like the predator from AVP. So we had to make it obviously more unique. And now we've got a pretty good grasp on it, and we're going to see an expansion on the Resonator's sound table pretty soon here. Nothing that I know of, new animation wise, but don't quote me there. Uh, but definitely always going to expand and make sure that we have the best sounds we can possibly have as our tools expand and as our experience grows. By the way, and I just want to say again, that was on my plate. On our other sound designer, Cools, Krishna, he, I believe, spent around, a good 50 to 60 hours just based on the first list of 3199 animations that we got. And that's, just the first order. Sometimes we get two, sometimes we get, four. Just based on how many animations comes in for a character, the versatility that the animators and the level designers need for mission or attack purposes, etc. So yeah, they can get pretty lengthy. A lot of love is put into these monsters, and it can be a huge process. But again, that's why we love what we do. We all love monster sounds, and what better game to do it for than an SCP game?
Birdie has an interesting question. And for other things, what are some of the more fun and unique ways you guys get sounds for the game? I've seen people do stuff like shaking a wire for laser sounds in sci-fi games. Wondered if there's stuff like that in SCP-5K. I know you've done some Foley. There's that incredible picture I've seen of you with Trey in the garage staining it. I know you've definitely done a lot of Foley work. I guess, what is there any interesting Foley sounds for SCP-3199 or the Door Squid that you've done that you might want to discuss?
Actually, yeah, that'd be a perfect transition over into our Door Squid project over here. So, although these are ran through some of the chain effects that I have built, you can still hear the sequence of recording and a bit of us in the background and all of that. If I solo this track right here, and I'll go ahead and just take our reverb off. So this is right. This is that session that you were talking about. Us in Trey's garage, just breaking an enormous amount of objects. And then I believe just right here, you can hear us again.
Honey cracks.
The sounds of the fray, raw, unfiltered. These were some good sounds. So how I got these right here is we had a plank of wood and I was smashing the corner of it directly into the concrete. Gives those nice visceral bassy thumps that we want without so much of the cracking.
Like trying to bore you. Like it's gonna be more reverberous and stuff too, but we need the initial impacts.
I mean, you want some variety too. You want to hear things like.
So you can hear some raw idea planning here with me and Trey, the game director for 5K. And then, yeah, again, once I enable all of the effects again, we get the door squid. That the whole recording. So this with all this wood breaking, there was a lot of glass breaking. We got rope, fiber sounds in general, foliage, trash cans, barrels, rocks, a tractor, a forklift. It's tons of. We smashed a bad amount of vegetables, but they were all rotten anyway, so no wasted food was harmed in this Foley recording. But yeah, and Trey and Evelyn locked me in a shed for a little bit too to get the sounds of, a shed closing from the inside and also Pyfer in the dark alone. So yeah, it was a really, really fun recording. Hopefully, well, I say hopefully, we're definitely going to do, a lot more, but hopefully the next one is very soon and we can go and ruin Trey's garage again because as he mentioned in his stream, or I believe a couple of streams ago, he has his own secret family recipe for blood because he's a man of horror. And so we got a lot of blood dripping sounds and blood covered rope and all of that good stuff. And then after that, and all the glass and wood shards and rocks and oh god, everything you can think of under the sun. His garage again, yeah, a mess, permanently stained forever. The Dexter himself, or the best detective you could think of, could never solve that crime scene. Um, so yeah, hopefully that happens again here soon.
We had another question that's been asked a few times, so just getting into it now. Is there any audio with more stress for the guards saying a line, like they're scared or under fire?
So I can actually, I'm not going to waste everyone's time playing all 171 lines, but I will try to pinpoint the lines real quick of when they're under fire. A very fundamental ideal that we've come on for a while here, especially through Trey's guidance, is that these are obviously cured personnel, right? And what does being cured mean? it's basically the loss of their humanity. They're shifting to the other side of the anomalous force, and they no longer feel pain or emotions in the way that humans really feel them. That's kind of like that whole knife stab test that was originally mentioned, in the 5K lore. So these guys don't really react to like getting shot like, oh my god, ow, ah. They're more inconvenienced in it, or if anything, kind of disgusted that you even dared to do that to them. Um, the most loud these guys really get is when you piss them off, and you're winning, or if they're one of the things I tried to stick to when I was doing this, and something that I want, the fellow voice actors that we had as future guards, because I will not be the only guard. Trust me, there will be a couple of guards. Just for, again, variation reasons. It's all nice to have a couple of different voices in the mix. And so yeah, one of the things I try to nail down is that the only time they really shout is when it's necessary, right? Tactical information is a necessity. There's no real emotion in it. I'm not, even if I'm a monotone drone, I'm not just going to say reloading like monotone and quiet to myself. I'm going to let everyone know around me I'm reloading, you know. Um, so let me try to pinpoint those. If I can, I believe they're right around here. Contact. Size Z resonator. We have eyes on a resonator. Hostile resonator. Apply protocol. We have resonators in the 7528 in the anomalous item. Contact. Anomaly. Anomaly. Proceed with 73B. As you can see, they react to a lot of anomalies. But yeah, no. They'll be in there. You'll hear them. Trust me. Day one. And they're not as derpy anymore, but they're not perfect either. They've gone from smooth brains to a four-way intersection brain, so they're at least adding some curves and wrinkles in there. If a guard tie, I'm just gonna answer this as I saw it real quick. What happens if a guard dies while talking? So it's kind of treated just the way that most of our sound events would be triggered through the Unreal Engine slash FMod combination that we're using. So I mean, it can end in a couple of ways based on the event. But if it's a character event, like dialogue, usually it'll cut it off pretty well, and the reverb behind it will mask the abrupt stoppage of it, so it won't sound like it just scratched like a record. Um, but yeah, this was really fun to do. No, I don't have an exact timeline on when we're going to get a second guard voice in, but hopefully it will be within the next month or so. And this does open the floodgates, if I say. Can't obviously talk too much about everything until it's revealed, but this is kind of the start of a large part of narrative focus, if you catch my drift. The guards would obviously not be the only faction that had bark lines. I think that's as far as I can go. So yes.
Very exciting that now SCP-5K is finally going to get some more in-dialogue personality to help flesh it out and make it feel more whole. We have an interesting question here. How do you make creepy ambience for the game? I'm trying to get some scary ambience in FL Studio for my game. What are your tips?
Yeah, so I built a lot of the early ambiances that we used in game all the way up until I'd say 2022-ish, maybe the beginning of 2023. And since then, a large part of it has obviously been done by my main man, Cools, and Venomous, if everyone recalls. They're both sound designers, and Venomous is also a lighting designer. So he's super good at a lot of things, and they all are. The thing that I used to do and that I kind of, helped them to get down to, is make sure you're keeping it tethered, right? You want to keep it grounded to the area. It shouldn't sound confusing or something like you're in the wrong place. It should match the tone. Don't worry about it matching the sequencing at first or anything like dynamic tracking. The most important thing is getting down the base general tone and then adding your own unique mix on it. There's a couple of flavors that everyone likes. Marty O'Donnell is a really good example of that. Being the creator of our favorite Halo tracks and all of that. He has his own way with like orchestral feel, violin, swells, crescendos, and all of that. Nice classical kind of training stuff. When we're talking about a game like Fear, right? We want to keep it grounded in the environment that these are really tight, kind of backroom feel hallways, and it's a horror game. So what's best for horror games is intensity or tempo. You want to keep people on their toes and anxious. You never want the true relaxation in a horror game until you want to weaponize it against a player. so yeah, make sure that you keep it grounded in the area. Um, Start off with your bass track. Don't worry about dynamics or anything that has to match with like a certain sequence or anything else on that. And just make sure that it's it doesn't have to be groundbreaking and using 25 instruments and layers. All you need is to keep a good tempo and to make sure that it is unique. You don't want it to be the classic droning track that it's just woo, and then a little bump bump bump. Um, it's very easy to get lost in that sauce.
Um, so another question for the Chicken Man: was there anything challenging with the sound design for him, or any ideas you had for sneaking in audio cues? What was the approach for 3199?
Yeah, so I only really helped guide our sound designer Cools during that process. He did the majority of the work for 3199. But in the guidance of that, we had a long list of talks with Trey, our game director, just making sure that we had his vision in mind for what he wanted out of them, and also making sure that it was something that would actually be lore friendly, right? If this is something that we don't want to change for the sake of just making it for our game, we want to make it sound kind of like what everyone always thought the Chicken Man would sound like. This is, I would say, and again, this is based on the research that I did myself and talked through with our writing team. The Chicken Man is a very weird one when you consider it a sound design, because do you go with more of a chicken sound or do you go with more of a man sound? um and obviously we chose, I don't want to say too much about, I want it to be like brand new and fun for everyone when they hear it first, but there's a bit of a mix in both, and you'll be able to kind of tell with more what side it leans on. um it The challenges that we faced the most were, again, kind of just making sure that it was going to actually sound like 3199. When you're considering monster chicken, it's very easy to get like that slip away and just start making like cartoon sounds all of a sudden, or something that wouldn't be considered as scary or serious as you'd want it to be taken. So again, I know I kind of sound like a repeated record, but keeping stuff grounded is very vital in sound design, to make sure that it matches the object you're making the sound for.
Which could be challenging when
And
it's
I would, well,
oops, sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just saying, I would love it if Cools was here, because I know he's so excited to talk about monster sound design whenever he can.
I'll have to queue him up in the next for an event so he can go a deep dive once the update is out and he could showcase how he created the Chicken Man sounds. So here we have a follow up question from Birdie, kind of delving back into guard dialogue. If a guard is unaggroed, say you're doing stealth playthrough and they don't know you're there, yet or in a dormant state, will the guards interact with each other, like saying clear or general conversation? I know they lost their humanity. I was wondering if they still spoke normally. And for the D class, who I don't think are cured, are they going to be panicked in a fight? And will they also talk to each other when unprovoked? And how would the two interact when it comes to voice lines between, say, the guard and the D class?
Yeah, those are all great questions. So firstly, the guards definitely do have their own, interactions with each other whenever the player is not near or maybe is near but isn't spotted yet. They may be cured, right? But they still have a mission. They still have a regime and a pecking order, per se. They still have to listen to orders. They still have a commanding lead, and they still have things to get done. They're not just waiting around until the end is done. So there are small little talks, and in the future, and I hope I'm not giving away too much. So Trey, don't smite me or whomever, but we hope to get some nice little tidbits of Easter egg mines in and stuff that can really just kind of give the players more insight on the lore and stuff that you wouldn't normally hear unless you kind of went out of your way to find it or you stuck around and listened to the guard instead of shooting him in the face immediately. um, and on the second part of that, again, hope I'm not giving away too much, but I kind of already slipped when I said that they wouldn't really be the only ones talking. In all honesty, so yeah, the D class are being worked on. Bark line wise, but it doesn't have much to do with what you think initially. It's the same kind of way that we handle the GOC lines for cinematic purposes and structural stuff like that. Hopefully, in the future, I can go over more in detail with the plans that we have for them because they're awesome plans. But the factions do interact with each other, right? And they obviously don't like each other, considering that one kind of imprisons the other. Um, and not every D class is the same. None of them are cured, really. Well, I don't want to say none because I'm not the writer. But the D class that we face in games so far are not cured, right? And they're not like the guards, so they all have kind of different personalities or brackets that they would fit in. And that's really where we're kind of getting more variation and expansion there. Not every D class is a hardened criminal like you would think. Some of them are just, they're cowards. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to see in the future. But for right now, I think the guards might have the better brains.
Looking forward to hearing that banter, especially as multiple factions get fleshed out. So it's exciting to see all these building blocks get put in. We had another question concerning 3199, asking on the topic of 3199, could we hear sounds from its other genes like chimps or snakes? I don't know how you'd add in chimp sounds combined with snake sounds in a Chicken Man, but I guess was that something that Cools was considering when doing the sound design for 3199?
So I can't go over every layer that he used because I didn't see the most recent version of his project, only the final sounds that we kind of put in engine. But he definitely used some layers. I'll say that. Um, the 3199 table that we have so far, sound wise, is very nice. And I wouldn't really say it leans more towards any one animal. It's kind of its own unique thing. Um, we're talking about a human-sized chicken, or I say human-sized, just a really big chicken with human genes, uh, mainly in its kind of like head structure area, the neck and the face. So it makes some pretty visceral sounds, I would say so. And I really want it to be an organic surprise for everyone here instead of just playing them all. Um, but yeah, again, would love to get Cools in for the next one that we do, or possibly here in the next couple of minutes. He might pop in
Ooh, that'd be
and
exciting.
have him dive more on that.
If Cools, if you are out there, you are more than welcome to. Anyone from Afray is always welcome to guest appear on each other's sessions. I always love it, but I don't force it because I know you've got busy lives, and I'm always super appreciative for you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and hang out with the audience that loves your work so much. We also had another question about the Arctic map. If it's going to be windy by the trailer, how did you guys do the wind sounds? What kind of sound design did you do for the Arctic map?
But yeah, so I mean, how we get our wind sounds is that we harness the power of the Greek winds and capture them in a bottle. But no, yeah, Cools and Young, they both have pretty adequate sound gear, like all the sound team. So it's organic winds that they caught in their own areas, and we process them like we process all of our giant sound field recording list, and built soundscapes out of it and solo winds. So yes, the Arctic will have winds that are akin to what we heard in the trailer, and they are dynamic. So they won't sound the same every time. Sometimes it picks up. Sometimes it's a little heavier. Sometimes it's a little lighter. Um, and we're kind of taking that approach into a lot of our soundscapes now and new things that we're building. Just making sure that they can adapt and change given a certain situations, or just on their own based on the player, if they're idling or whatever.
Well, that's exciting to hear that the 5K team goes to the wild to make sure that like elemental sound fez are all natural. You don't use it is like there's no processed sounds in 5K. No, these are sounds taken straight from the wild with the pros heading into the field. Were you there at GDC when they were doing the gun sound effects and getting the ambient gun sounds?
I had to leave the day before that to make it on a plane in time home, but our resident sound designer Cools was there to capture all of the nice gun sounds for us. Um, so we had a huge list of new gun sounds to work with based off of the gun recording we got off of that. Um, and from that, we're gonna get a lot more bangy bangy sounds.
That's always fantastic to see you go out in the field. That the sound design is not exclusive to Activision people going out. That a small game like SCP 5K can have that extra little bit of homebrew that just makes the sound design that more special. We also had a request. Is it possible to show any D class lines, or is that in the pipeline or too spoilery?
I cannot show them right now. It's a two-part reason. First, the D class has to be rewritten entirely. So I will say that we had an early test of bark lines for them just to get a early understanding of the mechanic as a whole for animator, or sorry, for a program team, and also just kind of to get the sound. The voice filter and all the tones down early as a sound team. So it needs more writing expansion, and then it'll need a whole new voice recording, which it's a lot. Again, can't give away too much detail, but I will say that all the factions, or all the people who speak, sorry, I misused that term, all the people who speak will relatively have the same amount of bark lines, and that's just so that they can all react, to each other. That's why they're called bark lines, because a bark requires a reply. So whatever they say, has something that will respond to the bark, in convenient, or sorry, in connection of what was said.
uh, so we have a question from another one of our Discord, Birdie. On the topic of bark lines again, how do guards react to their units taking losses? Do they recognize that they're combat ineffective after they're taking too many casualties, or do they acknowledge when they're royally screwed? Yeah, is there like context combat bark lines?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. So, each bark line that is done, regardless of whom, has a high morale and a low morale state. A high morale meaning that is their normal state, usually how they react to things without having taken they are losing basically, or getting a little bit desperate in the situation. So that was pretty hard to nail down for the guards, especially because, again, we're establishing kind of this droll monotone nature and this emotionless husk that only really feels disdain and disgust for humanity. It was hard to come up with low morale lines without making them sound like they had emotion. Uh, s- so right now, what we see in front of us here is actually just high morale lines. Low morale lines will be coming soon. I can't give an exact timeline, but definitely before the next update, major update. So maybe a month or so, um, and that will just add more dynamic interaction given on situations. So the line for losing a comrade in high morale might, it'll sound more unforgiving or cold. Like, don't get hit, or you're not supposed to get shot. I can't remember the exact lines. They're right here somewhere. um, but when they're in low morale state, again, they're not really panicky or desperate. They're just more frustrated, and now they're actually getting kind of pissed off. So they do sound a little more disdainful. But yeah, there's a high morale and a low morale state, and they will change based on how well you're doing as a player, basically.
Yeah, maybe in the future when we get permission, it would be really cool to, if you still have the cancel D class lines, just to play them on stream and let people enjoy what didn't make it into the game, assuming those files haven't been deleted.
Oh yeah, we could probably do something like that. A little sound blooper reel, or stuff that just wasn't used in game. Definitely have a couple gigabytes worth of that stuff at least.
Ooh. Well, we will wait till a later date, but that would definitely be a fun thing. And it is going in my idea bank for the future. We also have a very loving appreciation. I can't wait for the National Geo Pyfer movie where we watch Pyfer in the wild wrestling alligators to make them do sounds into the mic for some sort of enemy type that he's handed.
Hey, I mean, if I needed the sounds, trust me, I'm getting them. I've had to do some crazy things to get sounds before. I once had to put up a deer stand in a 16-foot tree and wait like 4 hours for this bird to come back to its nest just so I could get natural, like, big bird noises. It was a falcon, by the way, and I needed a bigger bird than just like a sparrow or a crow or something. So uh, the falcon was obviously territorial and pissed off until I screamed at it for a minute, in sound designer language. So then it calmed down, and I set up a lavalier mic that was right next to its nest. ran a wire down the tree and then hooked up the mixer, and I now had a ambient falcons sound. So yeah, that was cool. I've done some pretty weird things with sound before. You'd be surprised the tricks that sound designers learn, and it's not just for sound design purposes, but sometimes it's just out of what you have lying around or a certain tone that you're going for. A little fun fact, if you love sound design facts, the sound for the ripping out the heart animation in Doom Eternal of the big guy, I forgot his character name, but one of the big enemies with the big gut. Yeah, I think it's a cyber demon. I'm not sure, but how they got that sound of like the Doom guy ripping out this thing's heart and then shoving it in its mouth was they slathered a steak in honey and then shoved it down a vuvuzuela and then blew into it. Uh,
That's so oddly
you can
specific.
get fun. You can get some crazy. Yeah, you can get some crazy sounds by just going outside of the box sometimes.
What was that bird for? That natural falcon, was that for 5K or was that for like another project you worked on?
Yeah, actually, some of the bird sounds that we used in our Axiom track are from those bird sounds that I recorded. Yeah, and they're just good to have in all future instances. You can never have enough bird sounds. Um, whenever we go out for field recordings, sometimes I'd say actually like 80% of the time we record stuff that we don't exactly use immediately in 5K, but we're building our sound library right as a studio, so that all of our sound designers have access to the sound libraries and sources when the time comes. If we need at one point uh, a hyper mechanized falcon, we could build it now, you know.
I hope the writing team can come up with a what you call it, a Falcon, Mech Falcon SCP, just so you can have an excuse to use those sound effects that you climbed into a tree for.
Yeah, to be clear, right, and I just want to clarify this. This falcon, its birds already left the nest, and you could tell it was kind of like those final last days before the mama also left the nest, and they kind of went on their falcon bird ways. Uh, so it was only the mom in the nest and the dad, I think, because there was two separate birds but no babies. And I got the mic up there, duct tape the 3.5 millimeter line the whole way down. And then once they flew away again, because I only put like a 24, it was a 16 gigabyte SD card in there. So at 24-bit, 48,000 kilohertz, that can record for roughly about like 2 hours. So I got about 2 hours worth of Falcon sounds, waited for them to go, and then just got the equipment back when they were in the nest.
Always like to hear a man who's willing. Can you hear me now? Hello?
But hello,
Hello?
hello.
Uh, all right. Hopefully, yeah, I have no idea what happened. But I am in. There is a storm here, so that might be a reason why I completely got disconnected. Um,
Well,
so
hopefully,
fear for my internet. That's the most important thing right now. So the question before I got cut off is: are there any SCPs you're dreading making sounds for? Are there any SCPs that are coming up, or that have been discussed, or that you've seen on the SCP wiki that you're like, oh god, I don't even want to approach that? What SCPs are you either dreading in the future or have seen and like, I don't want to make a sound effect for the Red King?
yeah. So obviously, I can't talk about stuff that hasn't been revealed yet. But one thing I can talk about that has been revealed very early on, and I am, kind of dreading doing the sounds for it, would be our Devastator. And that's because the Devastator is a big, chunky boy, and he has some special abilities. Like, he can bite so hard that the sound wave breaks around it, and it would basically shatter your eardrums. So that's an effect I have to pull off, and the general sense of big chunky boy. um like one of the number one things I said early on to our sound design team is we're not going for the classic monster sounds that you hear a little too much in games, like just a lot of like just throat sounds and stuff like that. We want them to be really, really unique, and fitting for the monster, right? They have to match the actual traits of the monster, the way it acts, the way it's built, you know, uh, bone wise. I forgot the actual medical term for that. um, the anatomy of it, yes, the actual anatomy of it, and all of that. So yeah, considering this thing is like the size of a hallway or like a transport hallway, it's gonna be really fun to pull off giant chunky boy, all these nice biting sounds, and obviously being a big chunky boy, right? It's gonna break some things, so we're going to have a lot of new environmental breaking sounds and bones and gore and all of that nice stuff.
So that's going to be a fun challenge to tackle. Although, well, here's an interesting hypothetical question. Previously we had Kyle Fitzpatrick doing a session, kind of showing the Fray process for sound design, which was a really fun exercise. So one of the designs he came up with was for SCP-2761, Bananazilla. Everyone loved that design. Bananazilla is not in the game. I repeat, Bananazilla is not in the game. There are no plans for Bananazilla. So, but I love Bananazilla. Maybe if you keep on memeing it, you will meme it into existence. But as of right now, there are no plans. But hypothetically, if Bananazilla won over the hearts of everyone in the fray, how would you approach making Bananazilla sound effects? How do you make sound effects for a banana T-Rex? What does a banana T-Rex sound like?
Warning, Banana Rex has infiltrated the facility. Warning, Banana Rex has infiltrated the facility. And then you would just hear a bunch of like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what a banana's natural ambience is like. uh,
Would it be kind of like, like a roar sound and just like really squishy?
I don't know. This is like Pictionary, but for sound design. It doesn't work that fast. Damn it. It would probably be like, let me think. It would be a lot of potassium sounds, right? And then probably like a gorilla underneath it, because within every good banana is strong silverback DNA.
uh, the people did like the banana sound alarm, uh, and potassium sounds.
Yeah, I imagine it would be a bit like Banana Joe. If anybody's ever watched Amazing World of Gumball, it'd probably just be like Banana Joe.
That is a good reference to start off with. As a sound designer, has there been any video game or movies that have really impressed you recently that are like, oh my god, I want to take a little bit of that and bring it into 5K somehow? I don't know, Godzilla -1 or anything of that ilk?
I was unfortunate enough to have a son around the time of Godzilla 1, so I didn't get to go see any new movies or anything since then. No, but yeah, something I guess that I've seen recently that is really nice that I've taken some sound inspiration from would be the and I know this sounds weird, but one of the new what is it called? I'm forgetting the movie that I just watched. Oppenheimer. Yeah, Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Yes. Yeah. My wife brought that up to me. I didn't even know that movie came out. She just bought it randomly at the grocery store because I don't watch movies or TV often. So I don't really know when things are coming out, let alone what is already out. She kind of just brings things up to me. So we watched Oppenheimer, really good movie. The sound design that they used for, the chemical plant and all of that, and just the atom bomb, is so beautiful.
Well, Christopher Nolan always goes for like practical sounds and great.
Yeah,
He is the king of kind of old fashioned filmmaking. I'm sure he has entire armies of poor gentlemen at nuclear bomb sites to get the
yeah.
accurate
I think
sounds.
I think it said literally on the movie case that it won awards for sound design or something. Like that, it was really good. I'm also kind of a nerd, right? I really don't pay attention when it comes to like real life movies unless it has to do with like heroes or anime or something. I'm a guy who mainly just watches a lot of DC animated films and superhero movies and stuff like that.
A good old genre guy who loves his
I watch
superheroes and sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, I watch way too many cartoons, like way too many cartoons.
We have another question. Perhaps Pyfer, we should get Pyfer to watch Dune movies to see the sound stuff in there. It's really good. Have you seen Dune Part 1 or Part 2 by any chance?
I have not. Yeah, I'm a horrible movie watcher. I have not seen all of the classics. I've never seen like any of the Disney movies, like Lion King. I haven't watched Star Wars. I have lived under a rock. Just doing other things my whole life.
Oh man, people are
But
saying
I
that
will
like
definitely make an effort.
people are saying like oh we should do a Dune event with Pyfer, a Dune session. Um, I would love to do that.
Yeah,
It's just a question of like I don't know if Piper can like. God dang, those movies are long. That's like 4 hours of movies. Um,
yeah.
Piper's got
So for
he's
the
got a very big
character,
family.
yeah. So for everyone that doesn't know, yeah, I have three kids that I love and a wife. I'm a family man. And I also have to make sure that all of the sounds are nice and that they don't break the game or your ears. So it's hard to watch movies. That's why it's hard to watch movies.
Well, Piper, like I don't know if this will ever happen, but the invitation is out there. If you want to host a cartoon night or a sound design night, watching something like Dune, the invitation is open. I will move heaven and earth to find a time that works for you. But obviously, your family and the game comes first. But the invitation is out there, and maybe who knows? Maybe you can get your kids tomorrow. I'm having a very special Saturday morning cartoon morning of programming. Maybe you can get your kids to come and watch Saturday morning cartoons. Probably not, but that is something I hope people will enjoy and I could do more of. And oh my god, it'd be so fun to have you host one of those. But obviously, your
Oh yeah.
family comes first.
Yeah, no, I mean, my kids love cartoons just like their dad. I got them on the right stuff too, so they're watching the good Cartoon Network classics like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Ed and Eddie, good stuff. My daughter, my 4-year-old, she loves The Simpsons. That's one of her favorite shows. And then she naturally came into Pokemon on her own. Like I didn't even teach her what it is. And then she made me buy her a Pokédex book. And now she can name like the entirety of Gen 1. It's crazy.
That's very impressive for like for just 4 years old. She's already like
4 years old,
working on
yeah.
catching them all.
She knows the difference between like bell-free and like butter-free and all that.
Uh, so she's already studying to become a Pokemon master.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of scary how fast they pick up on things like that.
Oh man, I hope you find the time to play Let's Go Pikachu with her. I hear that game has a co-op mode.
Yeah, she plays a lot of retro games with me, like on Xbox Original and GameCube. So I got her on that Mickey Mouse mirror adventure game that I used to play when I was a kid, and oh, she loves it.
Oh, that's so
Mario
sweet.
Kart and stuff.
Daddy getting daughter into gaming. People are like going nuts now. They're like, "Oh my god, I've got a cartoon fan. There's a cartoon fan in a fray. What's your favorite? Gumball and Adventure Time is amazing. Oh my god." So Pyfer, lay us down. What are your top favorite five cartoons, either in the past or recently?
Well, I'm not a wacko who considers anime cartoons as its own separate branch, so you're not going to hear like Dragon Ball, even though that's in my top anime list, obviously. But my favorite cartoon shows are probably like the classics, the stuff I was watching and raised on. So no order in this, obviously, but like South Park, prime bread and butter. Ed and Eddie, that was always my go-to. Batman the animated series, and I'll probably fudge Batman Beyond right next to that in there. Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and I don't know the fifth one. Let me look. I'm a huge collector, so like I collect DVDs. Let me just look at my shelf.
uh, people
Yeah,
are
I
like,
mean,
"What did you find on your shelf?"
um, just a lot of the classics again. It sounds like a tropic answer, but I'm a huge King of the Hill fan. I love Mike Judge's work. I've loved it since Beavis and Butthead.
King of the Hill, out of all the like family sitcoms, I think is the one that's like probably the best and most consistent. Like I don't know, is there a
Oh
bad
yeah,
season
for
of King of the
sure.
Hill? I don't think there is.
The early seasons were slow. That's all you could really say. But it was a grounded show that didn't need to go do 1,000 cutaways or make obscene jokes. That's why I really loved it.
Well, it's glad to see it. This fine appreciation for animation domination. And if you ever want to host an animated night, please let me know. Um, Although I'm kind of curious to ask, let's say hypothetically, a Fray gets into the situation to get like an animated series of 5K or some SCP thing. Um, what would be your approach for sound effects for that, or would that just be a dream come true for you?
That would definitely be a dream come true, kind of like a cyberpunk edge runner situation, but for 5K. Yeah, I would make sure that we'd go hard for that one. It's always different, like kind of like I can show here in the stream. Like this is, our whole like sound design structure for, well, not the entire thing, but the majority of the sound design structure for our November trailer that we did, obviously in
Ooh,
November.
go in. We
Um,
got distracted into cartoon land. Let's bring it back down. Tell us what we're looking at here.
but yeah, so all these, just different layers and stuff that goes into cinematics or animation,
Everything wants
anything
to see.
that involves a video along with it or a cutscene, obviously. These are, scripted events that follow a very structured scale. You have to match things very, very precisely in the sequencing and building that layerage and ambience that's realistic while also highlighting what your main focus is, whether it be narrations or guns or whatever. Um, so it's not the same way that obviously, game sounds are handled. Game sounds are built into events through our middleware, and then these events are built into the objects that they're used in, or the room that they're used in, the characters, etc. And those are activated per achievable instance or instance that requires, activation of that sound. So a lot tougher, honestly. I'm more used to building game sound. So when we do cinematics and animation and stuff like that, it's all sorry, it was a super loud sound. It's all really fun and new, and it follows the same kind of rhetoric that normal game sound design approaches. But now you're just kind of piecing it all together into this giant sequence that it's awesome. Yeah, you're building the because watching this video without any sounds flat, it can be a little daunting at first. You're like, okay, now I got to break this apart. Let's create the background first, then we'll start adding in Foley, gun sounds, monsters, dialogue, music, etc. You have to take these things in layers, and one I can't remember his name, and I feel horrible for that. But one guy in the game industry who gives great advice on that is actually the director of Dead Space, and you can see it in the documentary they made, the making of Dead Space. He always believed in breaking things down in layers, whether it was an animation, a sound, whatever, and taking the approach from there because once you start out from your base, you can figure out your next layer, and it's hard to approach something all at once versus like all right, so let's just deal with this first, and then we'll deal with this layer, this layer, this layer, etc. So if we did an animation or the series, yeah, it'd be a lot of work, but it would be so fun, so fun. Like we had a blast doing this. Sound designers, just like anybody in their profession, they love to be challenged. We love to do stuff that is outside of our norm because at the end of the day, once we're done with it and comfortable with the workflow, that's just something that we add into our roster and scale and our expertise, and that's something that will always be better in the future the more we do it.
So for something like, I'm kind of curious. You see so many layers here. Is it just sort of instinct where you kind of realize the elements you want, or what's the trial and error process when you feel like something's complete or something's missing? There's like not enough leaf crunching or forest ambience, or the gunfire sound effect doesn't feel right.
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and drop this a little bit. Play. So when we're considering scenes like this, obviously there's firing going on, there's a resonator dying. The narrative dialogue always takes place as a priority over everything else, like Foley and music. There's, vocal highlight of the resonator sound cue here, even though obviously if he would have made that sound, this guard would have known he was there a lot sooner. Um, you just kind of have to take every scene by scene and break those down into layers. Like if I was just looping this section right here, so obviously we need the gunfire on the right. Now it's centered. The narrative's going on the whole time. There was some minor foliage when the guys came in. Beat change. So yeah, it's just really trying to approach things as smartly as you can. There, it can be again a messy process if you let it become that. In our first kind of Isaac, or
Yeah,
did it
yeah,
glitch you
I'm
again?
here. It booted me out for some dumb reason, which I do not understand. I curse the weather. I am perfectly fine, but my internet, yeah, that's one thing I definitely need to pursue for in the future is getting a hardwired connection versus a Wi-Fi that's in the garage, which is a little bit far from me. But continue on with talking about multiple layers, and my apology for dipping out by a force.
No. Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, I mean that was a summary. It's just you wanna approach things practically, right? Instead of making it more complicated than it needs to be. Breaking stuff into layers is as easy as saying, okay, what's happening in the background? What's happening in the foreground? Is there movement? If so, and what's the timing on it? What's the material? uh, gunfire, match up every muzzle flash is when a bullet happens. We try to make it as precise as we can and accurate to the weapon. Um, that just kind of implies intrinsically, through everything. Albarni left us. I thought he was going to talk about some sound stuff himself. Albarni is our technical director for everyone not aware, and he also has some pretty good sound design skills.
Oh, does
He
he?
helps the
I
internet
had no
blog
idea he was
sometimes.
a sound designer as well. He asked me specifically just to listen in. I like to like overhype people and do like WWE pomp. Oh my God, it's Al Barney with a steel chair. But when they ask to be quiet, I turn that off. Who knows? He might pop in again. People, when they saw him, they're like, "Oh God, is there an update? Is there a delay? Please, no, not a delay." Birdie.
No. Uh,
Oops, sorry. Yeah, finish your thought.
no, yeah, I wasn't going to say anything. You go.
Oh, so Birdie says, are there ever going to be lore audio logs about SCP-5K enemies later on? Like, let's say to liven up the YouTube channel where there's SCP readings, like kind of like that guy on YouTube, the Vulcan does. Um, that's a really interesting question. I think there's like what can you say about audio lore that's going to be in the game?
All right, so yeah, while I'm not in charge of where audio logs could be found or any playable audio, or what the audio even is, like, the written dialogue, I can say there is definitely a plan to include lots of SCP lore through audio logs, notes you can find, all of that stuff. It just takes a lot of time to make it all relevant to the story and just branching out into making sure that we're being as more accurate as possible within the given means that we can. We want to make it a love letter to the SCP community, obviously, and show that we're including a lot of references and neat stuff that any SCP fan wants to see. Let alone if you've actually been keeping yourself updated with like the whole 5K timeline. Um, yeah, I wish I could just spread them through every level on every, desk or whatever. But our level designers, they need them where they need them for practicality purposes, whether it be through genuine direction or if it's just an Easter egg line or whatever. But they will eventually be in game. I promise you that. I can say that.
From like audio logs on the YouTube channel, I'll just say this since I guess I do have a or I do have a hand in it. If I had my choice, I would be putting out audio logs every day on YouTube and TikTok and every social media platform we have. I love audio logs. I would love to have just lore of guards talking and people talking. The problem is that like a lot of the talent is like professional voice actors. So that means you got to pay them. You got to schedule a recording session. So that requires a little bit more planning and a little bit more money cost. So that's why you don't see it like all the time. If I just had like money to burn, I would happily like churn those out all the time for you guys. And when you say that you like the Area 12 Days of Christmas, that really warms my heart because that was something I pushed very hard for to make happen. But yeah, it's something I would love to do. But like, since they're like kind of like there's the writing, there's the getting the actual voice talent, getting them in a recording booth. Those kind of processes make it not as
Yeah.
simple as I would love to do that all the time if possible.
That's the main thing. Yeah, I could totally just like start making audio logs and like forcing the level designers to put them in game in places, but I'm just the audio guy. I'm not a talented writer like our writing team is. So, you know, not all my stuff would sound as good or professional or be as lore accurate as it should be.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I would love to have like just Pyfer like be like a scientist or a guard, talking about like boring stuff, day-to-day stuff of like in Area 12 before the shit hits the fan. But he's got other things to do, and there are other checks and balances. So if you keep on saying it and letting people know, maybe it might be possible. But that's for the O5 Council to
Yeah.
approve.
Yeah. In regards of also my voice being in a lot of audio lines and stuff, I have to definitely consider that my voice is somewhat identifiable, and I have to give other people a chance. So I'm not just gonna, do every voice myself when we have so many talented voice artists. Um, and yeah, since I'm pretty much only since I'm the guards right now, I have to really choose carefully from where on throughout here in development where I use my voice.
It's really funny. People are saying, no, only Pyfer. I want Pyfer is the only voice we need. So let me throw this out for you as like a fun piece of hypothetical DLC. This is not confirmed. This is not official. This is not me announcing anything. But let's say there was the Pyfer patch where all the voice dialogue in the game was you doing the lines. Would that be possible? Would that be something you were game for?
It'd be possible, but gosh darn, it'd be about like 10,000 lines. I don't even know. By the time I can't estimate the exact amount, but I will definitely grossly estimate by the time, we're a full-fledged 1.0 release, we're gonna have a fair amount of dialogue in this game. So that'd probably be a couple thousand lines.
You wouldn't be up for it for April 1st? The Pyfer patch. Release the Pyfer cut.
I'd be up for it if all of the proceeds for that patch went to I don't know, I guess hunger. Yeah, hunger in America.
All
There we
right,
go.
so it has to go to a good charity. It can't just be for the sake of Pyferification. Uh, that is a
Yeah.
very noble spirit. It shows that you've got a big heart outside of beyond just a deep voice and a hunger for
See,
Pyfer's
that's a smart voice actor.
and a hunger for doing sound design.
Yeah, that's a smart voice actor right there. I don't work for pay. I work for charity.
So there you go. You got to demand the charity. You got to if you want the Pyfer cut, you also got to demand it, and you also got to make sure that you donate to a good charity that
Yeah.
helps with hunger. Although, given that you're a
Yeah.
big fan of superheroes, I got to ask: did you have any interesting thoughts on the Snyder cut?
Uh, the Justice is Gray one.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, the Snyder cut of the Justice League.
yeah. Well, I mean, when it came out, it was a bit confusing because at first I was like, "Oh wait, is this like the sequel?" But no, it was the director's cut that had like 2 more hours of footage in it. So it was a bit confusing at first watching the old scenes mixed with new scenes, and I thought I was having a bit of a Mandela effect moment, and then I was in the wrong universe. Um, but yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I'm a huge DC fan, Batman for life, but even I, even I know that DC's live action movies need a bit of work. Their bread and butter is their animated movies. They're king with animated movies. Um, but they have a way to go before they're gonna build an MCU of their own.
Well, we'll have to see if they pull it off. I do think that's really funny, though, that you were like watching it and you're like, wait, is this the sequel? But that's the scene from the old thing. Am I going crazy?
Yeah, right. That was definitely when I thought my kids have definitely done it in the last pink matter in my brain.
Although X Reaper says Pyfer, future voice of Batman.
I always wanted, yeah, that was the reason I became a voice actor because Kevin Conroy was my inspiration. Uh, it hurt when he passed away. But Jensen Ackles does the voice for Batman now, and he does pretty good. He's also Dean in Supernatural. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, good
I
actor.
I
Would
had
love, yeah,
no idea. That is he
yeah.
if he does like
Would
the
love to. Oh, sorry.
oh sorry no I thought you were in the middle of saying something. Um, So we have been going for nearly an hour and a half. I am enjoying it, but how are you doing on your end? I do know you have 3 young children that must be tended to, so I do like being considerate of that.
Yeah, definitely. Now's about well, yeah, now's about the time that they get a story read, brush their teeth, and go to bed. So, definitely, probably want to wrap this up soon.
All right, so we'll give it like maybe 10 more minutes, and we do not want to deprive your children of their story time. Although, oh my God, they must be in heaven. You have the ultimate story reading voice.
I do all my own monster sounds.
All right, so we've got 10 This is the question. Please give in your last minute questions concerning sound design. This is your lightning speed round we have from Birdie. So let's say hypothetically there are plans for an underwater area and then a giant SCP that they got amnestics from around. How would you handle the sounds for submarines, underwater bases, and giant eel thing that speaks to you telepathically? So I guess if there's hypothetical plans for an underwater section for 5K, how would you handle that? Would you have to go to like an underwater oil plantation? Would you go in a submarine? How would you get those underwater sound effects?
There's a couple of ways you can get an underwater sound effect. Either you can do it realistically and just get a hydrophobic mic, which is, something that can be used in water or liquid. Or you can, be a sound designer and mix your own underwater effect through a couple of phaser chains, a multi-band compressor, etc. There's a couple of ways you can really achieve that effect of just being like underwater. We have built a couple actually that are kind of like underwater instances. They aren't really used yet, for obvious purposes, but we are considering the ability, for the future whenever they will be used. So, yeah, not saying that it's soon or it's got a big part, but eventually, you can dunk in the water and you'll definitely hear underwater sounds.
But like, how would you get like a giant piece of machinery, like an oil platform or a submarine? Something that's like this $1 billion piece of machinery.
Just kind of through the similar process that we talked about earlier, just layering and mixing. When you're building big, chunky sounds, I mean, there can be dozens of layers that go in there with precise, placement that give off the machinery vibe or the kinetic energy or whatever's happening. We try to, you know, get good sources. It really comes down to getting good sources. Um, you can only do so much with a sound library that you can buy online that's not relative to what you need. So sometimes you have to just go out there and get it. Um, you'd be surprised where you're allowed to go with a recorder too. Like, I mean, I live in the South. There's tons of oil rigs here, and I've totally walked up to an oil rig before and asked if I could just like record some ambient oil rig sounds, like the whole taking out the huge pipes and screwing them in and feeding them and repeating and all that. gets you some nice chunky machinery sounds. When we were on Trey's farm, right? We talked about this earlier. We recorded his tractor and his forklift, all the mechanical sounds from it. Going up and down with the crane bit. Yeah. So it's all about getting good sources and then just trying to come up with a realistic way of like, okay, so how do all these mix together and create this one big sound, or this specific timed sound.
And I'm amazed that they just kind of like let you come in and do it. There's no one like ever says like, "What are you doing with that microphone? How dare you? Are you trying to spy on us?" You never get any pushback.
I'm going to be fair, I only did it the one time, and no, they were pretty cool about it. I mean, they could tell I was Southern as well. Walked up in my cowboy hat, and so they knew I wasn't city folk or uh, uh, a Westerner or whatever. They were just like, yeah, just stand right here, don't touch anything, don't go past this line, and that should be fine.
Well,
You
that
could get away with a lot of explanation when you walk up to the place with like a bunch of sound equipment all around your shoulders and back, and you're holding mics, and you're like, "Hey, I'm a field recorder, a sound designer. Can I get some sounds?" A lot of people are just like, "Yeah, do whatever you want."
that is amazing that like people are like so like respectful, and they're like just get in there. And one of the other surprises is that outside of yourself, there's another voice talent on one of the other Affray projects. Would you like to talk about the other star voice actress you have in your midst?
Oh yeah. So for those of you that aren't aware, Affray is releasing or working on a secondary game behind 5K. Uh, Josie, and Josie is a cat game, and I happened to adopt a cat from a shelter about 2 months, or no, maybe like 4 months after we got the Josie team in the mix. And so yeah, my cat is the voice actor for Josie. I record all of her cat sounds myself.
Oh, that's such a sweet story. I didn't realize she was also an adopted. uh,
Yeah, she's a shelter kitty.
oh, and now she went from being a shelter kitty to being the star of a potential hit video game. That is absolutely wonderful. We did have a question. What is the funniest interaction you've ever experienced during a field recording session besides the Falcon? Also, holy shit, you have to send us cat pictures.
I mean, honestly, there's been a lot of things that have happened or gone wrong in the middle of field recording. Um, Let me think. I guess the one time I was out recording some ambient gunshots in the distance, so I had to get the mic really far away from the gunshot, and I was shooting, I don't know, 300 meters away from where my equipment was, and since all my equipment was in the bushes and not next to me, um, I just looked like a maniac with like a bunch of AR-15s and weapons just shooting at a fucking mountain. So the game warden happened to uh, pull up around that time, and I told him that I'm a sound designer. And he's like, "Where's all your gear?" I'm like, "It's in those bushes over there." And he made me fish out all of this like gear out of these bushes, and he looked at me like I was like, I don't know, planning something like with sound equipment. Um, and then basically told me that if I want to continue recording, I need to get permission from the owner, which I told him I did. I had permission from him. And he's like, "Does the owner know you're doing this? Like, did you tell him you're recording all this out here?" I'm like, "Yeah." And yeah, it was a weird interaction with somebody. He didn't understand. I guess the weird thing and why he thought I was doing something, he didn't understand any of what I had. He thought they were like radar equipment and stuff like that, and like hacking devices. But it was just a field recorder, a mixer, a couple lavs, a shotgun mic, and he thought I was like tapping into satellites or something. It was weird.
They thought you were like an X-File, you're Mulder there with like incredible diagnostics.
Yeah, I don't know. He treated me really weird, and it was super weird because I've shot out there before, and again, since that, I've never ran into him. Like, it's another game warden that I interact with usually, and he's pretty cool, but I've never once seen that guy before or again.
Hmm. It almost sounds like a mythical character, like the devil in Red Dead Redemption, who you just there to see at that one point. Birdie, last question. How did
Yeah,
you get that?
classic. Oh, so I was just gonna say the classic wrong thing that happens in most field recordings is just like you got the perfect setup and you got the right angle, and then all of a sudden a plane flies by, or like a a deer has a seizure in the woods or some weird sound, or your classic Wendigo, um, cars driving by, a lot of natural stuff that happens.
Uh,
Um,
things that you can't control for.
Man, the one that makes me the angriest is when you're convinced you have your phone on silent and you're getting the perfect ambient recording. Which ambient recordings, they have to be recorded for 5-10 minute sessions, whatever. They're loopable tracks, so you have to get a lot of source material. And man, it sucks when you're like 4 minutes in and then all of a sudden your phone rings, or like yeah, like somebody went buck wild with their Kawasaki on the highway, you know, or
Yeah.
just when you're recording when your equipment falls over. That sucks.
Yeah, I imagine there's not much to do. There was a question, final question from Birdie, who asked, "How did you get that really crisp neck snapping sound effect for 173?"
Celery and deer femur.
Deer femur.
So quite literally, yeah, just a mix of real deer femur and some celery stalks.
Ooh. So a little bit of bone, a little bit of vegetable. Great breaking sound effect.
Yeah. The reason why deer femur is because obviously I don't keep like the spine. I've hunted deer since I was like 12. Um, I did not, hunt this deer in the means of using its anything for sound. It was just deer hunting season. I usually go out anyways. Um, but yeah, so I had some antlers and some hooves and femurs just lying in my shop, because you can do a lot of neat stuff with bones, like you whittle them into knife handles and stuff. Um, and we eat a lot of venison here in the South. I live in Oklahoma, for reference. So we're pretty yee here, and we go hunting a lot. Um, so yeah, had this nice chunky deer femur that was on my workbench in my shop, and decided it was time to put it to good use. So recorded me, and it was one of those takes where you only really get one take, maybe two, if you absolutely needed a backup. But it's kind of a one take event, so I had to set it up right. I did a test setup with a just a couple of like sticks and celery first. The celery was a really good crunchy snap. So I kept some of the celery sounds, and then the bone. I mean, that's what gave that nice, like splintering effect.
Ooh. Well, I'm glad you got it on your first try. Um, All right, so we have done our 10 minutes. As much as I'd love to go another hour or two talking about superheroes and cartoons, those kids deserve their bedtime story. So tomorrow at noon, we will be having a Saturday morning breakfast. I hope all of the international people who can't make the movie night, this time will work better for you. That's half the reason I did this. So I hope you can get on your pajamas, get some sugary cereal, or bring in a snack and watch Saturday morning cartoons with us. We've got all kinds of fun, cool stuff. And before we end the evening and let Pyfer return to his family, any final words about things you're excited for people to see in the 014 update, or words of inspiration for aspiring sound designers?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go ahead and do both. So, in terms of the future of 5K and stuff I'm excited for, these guard bark lines is really, it's a monumental moment for us, because this is the start of us getting narration and dialogue into the game. Not only for versatility purposes, so we can actually, have the guards interact with stuff that's happening to them. But this is the start of, getting direction in the game. A large complaint we've had for a while, and we're trying to fix it in the best ways that we can, as fast as we can, is that sometimes it's just confusing where to go, what to do, etc. That's all solvable, through dialogue or through smart means of just giving the player some awareness or some hints in that direction. Um, so yeah, getting these bark lines in is huge, and this is just the start of a lot of new, cool sounds that we're going to be hearing. We have so many cool anomalies that are coming into the game over the next update or so. So those are all, super exciting, because they just add um, more events, in ways we can handle situations, and not just fighting the same enemies over and over again, because we don't ever want to have that happen. Um, and Yeah, so a lot of cool, exciting stuff coming as always. And I guess any words of inspiration, just get in there and start doing it. Nobody creates perfectly sound treated sounds right off the bat. Nobody has perfect equipment off the bat. I started my journey as a voice actor, um, that had a $40 microphone and a Dream and a cracked version of Adobe Audition. And the whole way I even got into sound design was, well, I was a teenage beginning voice actor with no money, so I had to make it sound like I had a way better mic than I did. So get good at just recording sound first, and then you'll get better at processing it as you go.
There you go. If you get a $40 mic and a Dream and Intuition and a lot of tutorials, you can make your way to your producing the best sound effects for the best SCP game. What an amazing story. All right, so before we wrap it up, one last little thing of morbid curiosity. Is your wife also kind of like a cartoon lover who loves animation and nerdy stuff?
Nope, she is your classic basic wife. No, but she loves, all the story drama stuff that's like Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds, anything where there is murder involved. They just love it for some reason.
Yeah, women cannot get enough of that. All the sort of murder stuff and investigations and crime dramas. I wish I
Yeah.
understood it better, but that's funny to hear.
I
But
even told her, I'm like, you don't, everything you watch has like murder or kidnapping in it. Nothing you watch is like nice, easygoing TV.
I'm sure you laughed really hard about that episode of South Park where the parents were so addicted to like discovery murder things, and then the
Yeah,
kids had to just shut it
yeah,
down to try and get control from the parents back.
yeah. Love her to death with all my heart, but She doesn't branch out of that medium. She does not watch animation or anything.
Well, as long as you're a happy family, that's all that counts. And who knows? Maybe someday she'll have a Dragon Ball Z awakening, and then the day when someone figures out the magic formula to make anime palatable as Marvel is to the mainstream, then that'll be your 100% day of triumph.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Also, if she would get into video games, that'd be cool too.
All right. Thank you so much for spending your Friday evening with us, Pyfer, and being so considerate. I always love having you here. I'll have to reach out to Cools to get some Chicken Man session where we can see his design process, and maybe you could pop in there. But it's time to let you go back to your family. So have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out with us for this event. Only a few more days till the update goes live on the 15th, this Wednesday. Can't wait for you to see all the work that this team has been putting into. And the first pillar of achieving that sort of comprehensive story feeling with those bark lines is going in. I'm super excited. So I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. So with that,
thank you guys all for. Oh, sorry.
No. What were you gonna say? I always hate cutting you off since it sounded like a really warm and sweet thing.
No. Same stuff. I was just gonna say, yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's pretty hard to kind of show off all the sound design stuff while making it interesting. So I apologize if it's been slow or boring, or I didn't, get into all the nitty gritty that you were hoping to see. But I hope I answered most of it, made it somewhat watchable, and this isn't going to be the last time that I stream sound stuff. So if there's something in the future that you want to ask or go over, totally. I'm more than open for it.
And with that, we bid you adieu, and I will see you tomorrow afternoon. Have a great one, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone, and I hope everyone has a good weekend. And look forward to the next update in the next upcoming weeks. Or next week. Oh, boy.
Yeah, I can't wait. You guys have been so patient.